This time, historic rifles on the firing line. It's the vintage sniper match in Talladega. Plus, John welcomes a new rifle shooter to the Bushnell GAP Grind. And the Remington Rolling Block is one of history's guns.
This is Shooting USA, reporting the stories of America's shooting sports.
The Springfield 03A4, the primary sniper rifle of World War II. Originals are now so collectible that you can buy a reproduction. But until recently, there was no place to shoot one in competition until the CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, organized the Vintage Sniper Match for military rifles in service up to 1953. And for the collectors who own them, to test the limits of antique optics, citing historic bolt-action rifles from around the world. It's team competition on the CMP ranges in Talladega, Alabama. They come from war zones, neutral zone, and the US of A. Military sniper rifles from around the world. These wood-stocked guns are today in the hands of competitors who are testing the limits of old technology at the Vintage Sniper Match.
It's a match that brings a different type competitor out, brings a nostalgic competitor out. You'll see World War II time period rifles, sniper type rifles that were used during World War II, Korean War era. The optics are either original optics or current production, reproduction of old optics. The rifles are getting to be used that have not been used in any competition type mode in years.
But they're shooting today in what might have been battlefield weather. Here at the Talladega Marksmanship Park in Alabama, the day is cold, 38 degrees with a 10-degree wind chill.
I hadn't felt my trigger finger in the last half an hour.
Despite the frigid weather, these competitors are determined to put history to the test. Two-man teams compete shooting at 300 and at 600 yards. And for this team, it's a new challenge. The Army Marksmanship Unit Sergeants Daniel Crody and Robert Shoup are shooting together here for the first time. They are both familiar with the Army's latest advancements in firearms technology. But today, they're shooting an 03A4, a reproduction chambered in .30-06. And the pair is quick to recognize the challenge they are about to face. The 03A4 is topped with an M73 optic, also a reproduction. Just 2.5 power, fixed magnification. Compare that to a modern-day 20 power variable optic. Well, that's like sitting in the front row of an IMAX movie, then going to watch a 20-inch TV from across the room. And there is also a mechanical disadvantage. Any adjustment to this optic, and the guys lose their zero. So they're forced to improvise.
Whatever you see based off the trace, just remember I'm not going to be able to click for elevation or for wind, so just try to give me a good hold.
What we found out when we were in the middle of training, like right before we came here, is we're not going to be able to, like we would with our guns, dial for elevation and windage changes. So we're going to have to get it in a neutral zone and then figure out how to basically Kentucky windage, hold either high or low and left and right, depending on the weather conditions and the changes in distances.
The disadvantage of a World War II optic, but Crody and Shoup are adjusting fire based on their hits on state-of-the-art electronic targets. So it's vintage guns competing in a high-tech match. Shooters use the CMP rest, which stabilizes the rifle in the prone position, and it also demonstrates a method that soldiers used years ago.
Back in that era, they didn't have bipods, so they were using whatever they could find in order to support the rifle, whether it be a branch or a mound of dirt or whatever. So that's kind of used to replicate those conditions.
The entire match moves quickly. 40 shots total for score. 20 at each distance, 300 and 600 yards. But the shooter has only 20 seconds to take each shot. That's 20 seconds for the spotter to read the conditions and for the shooter to pull the trigger.
Looks like it's crossing down there.
You just look at the wind flag right now. The far right has almost some left going to it. The far left has some right on it.
You're both looking through separate optics, seeing completely different things, but talking about the same thing. So you have to be able to understand what the other person's talking about when he says, hey, I'm gonna hold a cinder block underneath the reticle, and it's just working on those working together to build those communication skills.
Dead center hits earn them 10 points and an X. And these guys are making it look easy.
Beautiful, Rob. All right, we're gonna try that again. It did surprisingly well today. I think actually with it being colder temperatures, that barrel was in fact cooling down faster than it would on a hot day, which I think helped our overall group size and our spread and deviation.
And for two modern day snipers, this vintage match puts things into perspective.
Come on, baby, keep on tracking. For me, it holds a little bit of sentimental value. I did have two grandfathers from World War II. It is definitely a pleasure holding a piece of history. Now, I got it. This is a reproduction gun, reproduction sight. But to get down behind the rifle and be able to see and feel what these guys had as far as tools to operate with that's always a joy.
And the team can now appreciate this rifle's historic value and its accuracy. More than 100 years since it went into service.
This is my first time doing it, so it's been a real crazy experience. Really enjoyed it. It's pretty impressive to, just like I said, realize what we got today, guys like to complain about, and then you turn around and shoot some stuff that our military used to shoot back in the day, and you realize, okay, so we don't really have it that bad, and we got it pretty good.
A step back 75 years into military history for two of today's Army's best marksmen. And they did well in the match, finishing 12th among 50 teams with their Kentucky windage. Well, up next, the Unertel, the Mosin-Nagant, and a Swedish Mauser. More history on the line from World War II.
Introducing the M&P M2.0 by Smith & Wesson, enhanced for complete shootability. Featuring a new aggressive grip texture, the famous M&P Optimal Grip Angle, 4 interchangeable palm swell grips for nearly any hand size, a light, crisp trigger with a clear tactile reset. Everything you love about the M&P pistol made even better. The new M&P M2.0, advanced by design.
Shooting USA is brought to you by Smith & Wesson and the new M&P 2.0 pistol, advanced again by design. The Civilian Marksmanship Program's Vintage Sniper Match brings out the collectors with rifles from around the world. U.S. models are the most common, but you find out quickly in World War II the Army and the Marines didn't agree on the best choice for their snipers. It is arguably one of the best optics of its time for its power and its rarity.
Today I was shooting the sniper rifle, the 1903 A1 with the longer Nerdle scope. Every time you see guys bring this out, everybody just runs over like kids in a candy store looking at candy.
It is the U.S. Marine Corps sniper scope, the Unertel, and it requires an unusual process after every shot.
With the 1903 Nerdle, it's an 8-power scope. It's a very reliable scope. It's a little bit different than the other scopes on the older traditional rifles, whereas it gives you more power. You can see the target a lot more clearly. The only thing is, with that particular scope, you have to remember to pull the scope back for each shot. If you don't, you get a lesser value shot. Generally, right after you make the shot, this recoils forward, and then you eject the round, put another round in, close the bolt, pull the scope back, and then start with another shot.
U.S. Marine snipers used the 03A1 during World War II through Korea and Vietnam. And now it is this retired lieutenant colonel's choice of rifle in competition. Robert Camara served in both the Army and the Marines for 3 decades and has a deep appreciation for this setup, chambered in the heavy .30-06 cartridge.
We call them wood rifles of the past. The wood rifles have a unique characteristic to them. They're very aggressive, very old school, and so there's a long-standing history behind them and a love for them.
But in neutral Sweden, a less aggressive wood-stocked rifle, the M41, chambered in a more comfortable caliber, the 6.5 by 55.
The biggest advantage of the rifle is the bullet, the 6.5. It flies through the air better than probably any bullet, on the market, especially in a vintage category.
The original 1909 Swedish Mauser came with a German scope, but Don Rutherford prefers this K4 Weaver, still legal for competition at this vintage sniper match.
It had a German Ajax scope on it, and I still have that scope. The disadvantage of that scope is it does have elevation, but it doesn't have windage. And the reticle in the scope is not exactly, to me, built for accuracy. And so with this K4 Weaver, I have the windage and I have the elevation for power, and I have the fine crosshairs versus the big vertical posts that the Ajax has.
The M41 also has 2 noticeable badges on the buttstock. One is inscribed with the sight settings with ranges and zeros, and the bronze stamp ranks the condition of the bore.
This one gauges a 2, and when you start getting to a 3, maybe you might see a little difference in your accuracy.
It's a setup accurate enough for Don, a 3-time champion in this match, even though he's competing with the M41 today for his first time.
Actually, my first go with this gun, and did pretty good today.
Each rifle here has a story and a place in history, including the Russian Mosin Nagant 9130 with a PE top-mount scope chambered in the 7.62 by 54 rimmed round.
This rifle has stood the test of time. It's been in use over 70 plus years and has fought multiple wars and multiple fights around the world, and it's probably still used today over in the Middle East in certain countries.
The Russians first introduced Mosin Nagants in 1891, but it wasn't used as a sniper rifle until 1932 with the 4-power optic.
These were top rifles at the time. I mean, the optics were fantastic. The top mount, meaning it's directly over the bore with its optic, made it very accurate.
And it was deadly in the hands of the most successful female sniper, Ludmila Pavlichenko, credited with more than 300 kills during the Second World War. One reason this Russian rifle has become a favorite among collectors, like Dr. Andrew Lundberg. But when it comes to the best in this competition, the doc thinks it all comes down to the shooter.
All of them were good. I don't think it has a significant amount to do with the rifle. I think it all has to do with the person shooting the rifle.
It always comes down to the skill of the shooter, whether on the battlefields of World War II or on the CMP ranges reliving history with the collectors of historic guns. But much has changed since the era of walnut stock service rifles. Coming next, the evolution of the U.S. sniper rifles, including the Army's new system, the M2010.
Tradition meets innovation. Ready for any competitive arena. The new Colt Competition pistol, featuring dual spring recoil system, Novak's new adjustable rear sight and fiber optic front sight, competition ergonomics, national match barrel in 9mm and 45. Innovation at a competitive price. American made and only available at Colt stocking dealers. Colt, built one at a time, proven every round.
Shooting USA is brought to you by Les Bear Customs 1911s, hand-fitted to perfection, because you'll accept nothing less. In the 1970s, the role of the sniper in combat began to evolve, and the equipment became more specialized when it was no longer a case of attaching a scope to the issue service rifle. The evolution would result in sniper teams of spotter and shooter working with very specialized bolt guns capable of high accuracy at long ranges. Much of that development has come from the Army Marksmanship Unit, charged both with winning in competition and with improving marksmanship Army-wide. It is the evolution of U.S. sniper rifles, the M21, the M24, and the M2010, all developed specifically for designated marksmen. But prior to World War II, true sniper rifles did not exist.
Originally, the 03 platform and then M1 platform was a basic issue infantryman's rifle that was modified basically with a scope and a few other little things and put in the role of a sniper rifle. You know, all the modern sniper rifles are purpose-built to be a sniper rifle.
First came the M21, a modified M14, though it was initially called the XM21 while in development. Operators in the tropical climate of Vietnam discovered a big problem.
The first XM21s were wooden stocks, so were glass bed, and they put them in a chamber, vacuumed, and they impregnated it with a resin epoxy so the moisture would not affect the wood. It still did affect them, but in '75 when it became the M21, they went to a fiberglass stock to prevent the adverse effects of humidity and moisture on the stock, because it will affect accuracy and changer zero.
So the Army never returned to wood stocks, but it did maintain the potent cartridge for years to come, the 7.62 by 51 NATO, or the civilian name, the 308. But it did return to the bolt action in 1988. The Army adopted the M24, featuring new upgrades specifically to benefit the shooter.
It had a bipod on it, had a free-floated barrel, fixed 9-power scope. The butt stock was adjustable for length. It didn't have adjustable cheek piece.
It was a more adaptable sniper weapon system based on the most successful bolt-action design, the long-action version of the Remington 700. American snipers were equipped with the M24 through the Gulf War, the invasion of Afghanistan, and Iraq, and it is still in use today. But the effective range was not long enough. Troops needed to achieve greater distance on the modern battlefields, and the long-action M24 was capable of chambering more power.
Well, when they had the 24, the reason they had long action was the special ops community wanted to have a rifle. If they chose to down the road, they could go ahead and change it to a 300 Win Mag. So when they came up with the new sniper rifle, that input from the special ops community and the shooting they did was adopted and put into it. So now all the soldiers have the capability of 300 Win Mag.
In 2010, the Defense Department awarded Remington the contract to upgrade M24s to accept the larger 300 Winchester Magnum cartridge. It became known as the M2010 and included a 10-inch suppressor, a 6.5 to 20 power scope, and a fully adjustable chassis. The entire system weighing in at 19 pounds.
It's chambered in the 300 Win Mag, so they can go out, reach out longer targets over in Afghanistan and out in the desert. They can reach out further, has a little bit more power. The modularity, especially on like the 2010, the accessory rails, you can mount pretty much any night vision out there onto your scope. It has a pistol grip, I guess, which is similar to an AR type platform. Help you recoil, holding the rifle in the shoulder, kind of going away from the traditional rifle style. It has a folding butt stock on it, which so for paratroopers and that, it's a nicer package. The bipod gives you a big advantage, especially on a rifle as heavy as a 2010.
It is the evolution of the M21 and the M24. More accurate, more versatile, and more deadly. for modern snipers.
If you ever look at old pictures of M24s or even the old 21s, people take foam and duct tape or other padding and they'd make adjustable cheek piece so they could get a proper stock weld. On the 2010, that's all configured in there. It has length of poles also adjustable, the height of your butt stock and your shoulders adjustable. One shot, one kill, that's very important.
So, a noticeable difference between the 7.62 by 51 NATO and the 300 Win Mag. And in the Army's case, it's a longer reach for one shot, one kill. Both cartridges utilize the same .30 caliber bullet. The difference is muzzle velocity. The 300 Win Mag is 3,300 feet per second, 600 feet per second faster than the 7.62. The 300 Win Mag shoots flatter and farther, taking lethality for today's snipers way beyond 1,000 yards. Well, coming next, an even earlier service rifle, but not for us. The Remington Rolling Block is one of history's guns. And later, John takes on the GAP Grind this year with a new partner. Out of all you'll spend on shooting this year, this is the most important, a membership in the NRA. Join at shootingusa.com and I'll pay $10 for you. It's that important. This is custom gun making, hand fitting, slide to frame, hand cutting the mag well, blending the surfaces of the slide, the frame, and the beaver tail. At every step, a Les Baer Custom 1911 is hand fitted to tolerances no CNC machine can match for match grade accuracy. And a Les Baer Custom 1911 is priced at 1/3 of what you'd pay any other gun maker. See all the 1911s and rifles at lesbaer.com. Shooting USA is brought to you by Bushnell Performance Optics and by Colt, built one at a time, proven every round. There's an American rifle that was so well built and so effective that 40 armies from Europe to Asia to South America carried it in battle for half a century. But the United States wasn't one of the nations that made the firearm standard issue. Well, even without U.S. government support, this small arm has left an indelible mark in the world and American history. The Remington Rolling Block is one of history's guns. In the woods, at the range, on the battlefield, it is one of the most famous and important American firearms. Introduced near the end of the Civil War and in service for more than half a century, this is the Remington Rolling Block.
Remington Rolling Block is one of the most important firearms, if not the most important firearm in Remington's history. After the end of the Civil War, Remington had no place to go, and when they brought out this Rolling Block, they were able to sell these things all over the world, and it kept the company afloat big time.
The Rolling Block is a single-shot, breech-loading firearm. Gary is shooting a carbine version, but Remington built it as a rifle too, in calibers from 22 all the way up to 58. That's because the Rolling Block was military issue in dozens of nations all over the world.
This particular one is in 7mm 7x57 Mauser. They were very, very popular in South America. Uruguay had them. They were used during the Mexican Revolution.
Which is why this model 1897 is displayed with a Mexican flag.
This is the gun that introduced a lot of nations to the concept of the self-contained cartridge. And they were using rolling blocks. Heck, the French were even using them as secondary standard up into World War I. Lots of sporting versions of them. I mean, it's a heck of a good action.
And that's why the Rolling Block stayed in favor decade after decade. An action that's strong, extremely reliable, and very simple.
This thing's so easy to load, even I can figure it out. You cock the hammer, roll down the breech block, put in a cartridge, raise it, and fire. Out comes the case, piece of cake.
That simplicity was a big selling point. Even soldiers with no real training could learn to shoot the gun in minutes. Remington knew it had a winner, selling rolling blocks by the thousands in Europe, Asia, and South America.
This case set was found in South America. It is the only known salesman's sample that was used to actually market the rolling block rifle anywhere.
Not only is it a salesman's sample, it's a factory cutaway, complete with dummy rounds to demonstrate the rolling block's action to Army ordnance officers. A one-of-a-kind piece of history.
This action does work. As always, to load it, we'll pull back the hammer, rotate the block back, we'll put our dummy cartridge in, close the block. The cartridge is now in the gun is ready to shoot.
Remington realized its action was highly adaptable too. Not just a rifle or a carbine, it also made a fine shotgun.
In fact, it is a rolling block shotgun, indicating how one of the things that made them successful was figuring out how to use the same parts for different things. It can not only be a rifle, it can be a shotgun.
And not just a shotgun, but also a sidearm. Remington even built rolling block pistols.
Strong, reliable, easy to make, and relatively impervious to misuse and dirt and things.
The pistol also has plenty of knockdown in .44 caliber Smith & Wesson Russian. But in spite of all of its benefits and successes around the world, Remington couldn't sell the rolling block to the U.S. military. Instead, when the Civil War came to an end, the Army chose to convert its Springfield rifle muskets to breech-loading cartridge guns.
The military tested the gun, but decided it was cheaper and easier to modify a lot of their old single-shot Springfields into the trapdoor system. Consequently, the rolling block was not adopted.
Still, some state militias and National Guard units did adopt the rolling block, and it was a favorite with frontiersmen like Buffalo Bill. And with Army contracts around the world, Remington sold millions.
It's a wonderful little gun with a whole heck of a lot of history.
Remington just marked the 200th anniversary of manufacturing firearms in America, making it the oldest continuing operating gun maker in our nation's history. Hard to believe, but without the rolling block, Remington might well have gone out of business 150 years ago. Well, up next, a modern rifle sport. John returns to the Bushnell GAP Grind, but with a new partner. That's next.
Conditions change. Your measure of success does not. The new Bushnell Elite Tactical DMR-2I's illuminated G3 reticle allows you to adjust instantly to changing light to deliver exact holdovers at any range, all with effortless control. So you can conquer any target, at any distance, in any light, every time. The new Elite Tactical DMR-2I, only from Bushnell.
Shooting USA is brought to you by Hornady. Accurate, deadly, dependable.
Precision rifle competition is arguably the most intimidating of the shooting sports for the new shooter. Expensive gear, long shots on small targets, data, positions, there's a lot to take on. But there is a match that aims to ease the new shooters into the game, and it works. The Bushnell GAP Grind.
It's the universal problem faced by all shooting sports: how to attract new people. The Precision Rifle Series has an answer that in 2 short years is working.
We're at K&M Precision for the Bushnell GAP Grind, the Pro-Am format in Precision Rifle Series competition.
The format is simple. Pair experienced shooters with new shooters to help this match experience be a good one. Like it was for me when I got started. Tom Fuller was my partner.
Well, in 2014, the first Pro-Am, I was fortunate enough to have John Scoutten as my amateur. We had a great time. We actually shot very well, as I remember.
Here's a breakdown of just how effective this format is. Tom is just one pro, my pro in 2014. In 2015, Tom has another AM, Eric Graves, and having shot some other major matches, I was listed as a pro. Jason Stanford was my am. This year, Tom is back as a pro, paired up with Philip Baker. Jason is back as a pro. Joel Rodriguez is paired with him, and I'm back with Jen Hodson as my partner. That adds up to a total of 6 new shooters in the sport, splitting off from Tom 2 years ago.
And that's the greatest thing about this. It's the shooting's awesome, but when you can bring people in and create a community of friends that share a common passion, it's the greatest thing about it, and it's just going to continue to grow.
This match format is growing the sport of precision rifle shooting at an amazing rate, and George Gardner of GA Precision is the man behind the idea.
This is the biggest match ever put on to date in the precision rifle series and any precision shooting sport that I know of. The official number is 236 shooters, 25 stages in 2 days. The whole thing's about growing the sport. It's definitely working, and we're going to continue to do it.
The largest PRS match to date isn't possible without the right facility, K&M Precision.
We do tactical training, military, law enforcement, civilians as well. Matches is a part of it. But these are big. I mean, the thought process into this facility design is not just training. It's not just for members, but like, hey, we're going to hold the largest precision rifle matches in the world. If the shooters want it, we're going to give it to them. And it's been a resounding success. The feedback has been so positive, and we're just happy to support the shooters in the community.
The right format and facility are critical, but the final piece of the puzzle is the match staff.
It takes 30 ROs. It takes the staff about 40 to 50 to make this happen. Without that, this sport doesn't exist. So all the credit goes to those guys for making a match happen.
With all of that in place, the icing on the cake is industry sponsorship.
One of the biggest things that we're excited about supporting the GAP Grind is that we do get new shooters. So help out those guys and gals that are out there and just keep bringing new people to the sport.
And there are 118 new people here this year of all descriptions, including juniors and sub-juniors. Missy Gilliland is working with 9-year-old Mary Beth Olson.
It's going well. I've got Mary Beth here with me this year, so it's a lot of fun.
Shot in a lot of different competitions, but this is my first PRS match.
There you go. I mentioned I've been paired with Jen Hodson. This is a very new experience for her.
I've never watched a match. I've never been to a match prior to shooting a match. I've only shot my rifle 4 times prior.
But she has seen our coverage of last year's Pro-Am.
Your Am last year was on camera a lot. I haven't shot a match before, so being on camera, shooting your first match, it's not real comforting.
Jen and her husband Austin work for George Gardner at GA Precision. Austin is shooting in the match also, but he's shooting with someone else. So why not Jen?
That would have been terrible.
We made the decision that we wouldn't do well together. I think she'll shoot great and she's good at it and she'll pick up on it fast. But
anything I shouldn't say, anything I shouldn't bring up, anything I shouldn't try to correct?
I think everything's fair game. She'll take what you say because it's not me.
Well, it's on me then, and we'll find out soon as the match starts next.
Hornady Security is committed to secure storage and touch-free access for your firearms and valuables. The RFID wristband, eFob, or decal instantly opens your safe for those moments when you need immediate access for home protection. Safe, secure, and always rapid.
Shooting USA is brought to you by CompTac, your source for everyday carry holsters and equipment.
The match format of the GAP Grind is a 2-day event. On the first day, teams are scored together, working the courses of fire on the same clock. On the second day, teams move from event to event together, but are scored and timed as individuals. In either case, it's the job of the pro to make sure the amateur has success. And a big part of that is corrections on shots that miss the mark.
Even though this match is designed for the new shooter, there are some real challenges for all skill levels. Jen and I get right to work on the Copper Creek stage, a total of 6 shots each from inside and on the car. The target is a full IPSC at 600 yards. Shooters must alternate shots. This gives me a chance to see what the conditions are doing and let Jen know. The car is cramped, and we both must be absolutely still or risk disturbing the other's sight picture.
Car's a challenge, man.
Engage.
Next, the rocks. 5 positions, 5 shots each. We have to move together, and both shooters must be in position before either shoots. The target is a 66% IPSC at 450 yards. We move 5 times, so our support bags are critical to rebuilding stable shooting positions inside the 2-minute time limit. Jen and I find a good flow on this stage.
That was a good run.
The majority of steel targets in this match are based on the humanoid IPSC target shape. The full size is roughly 18 by 30 inches, but they get smaller. The 66% is a little less than 12 by 18, and the 45% is a little less than 8 by 11 inches. We'll be seeing one of the 66% targets in our next event, set at 300 yards. But it'll be moving.
Load, make ready. All right, we're gonna be starting out right to left.
The mover is designed to test our teamwork.
Your shot. Wait for it. You're shooting as soon as you see it. Behind it. I'm ahead of it. You're behind it. Increase your lead. Still behind it. I got this shot. Good shot.
Communication is critical, not only for corrections, but also for keeping track of the target's location. A malfunction forces me to focus on getting my gun back online, and I rely on Jen to help me refine the target.
Where is it? All right, settle down. Let's make these count. Your shot. Good shot.
The level of difficulty for each stage is balanced by target size, distance, and required shooting position. Easier positions for smaller targets, more challenging positions get larger targets, but it's always on the clock. The time limit really takes a bite when multiple positions are required, like on the stage trunk to pipe hustle. 7 shots from 3 positions at 500 yards on a 66% target. The final position is the most difficult.
Impact! Pipe is never a good spot, though. Pipe is terrible.
Our final 2 stages will be movers. First, the 500-yard urban mover. The target must be engaged at least once per pass through one of the windows. 10 shots total on a 12-inch square. Now it's Jen's turn.
Decrease your lead.
Knowing your lead and timing are critical here. And Jen just locked it in.
Perfect. Dead center. That's your lead. 1.
That stage is a good confidence builder for Jen going into our final event, the 300-yard pipe mover. 9 shots on a 66% IPSC, but the position must be on the stack of drainage pipes. She's using a smaller bag as a forward rest instead of her bipod. Once it's set, it's a solid rest. This is another great stage for Jen. Just what we need to sink the hook for good.
I'll definitely be back.
There you go. She said she'd be back. Special thanks to Jen for putting up with the cameras as they followed us through her first big match. And thanks to everyone at K&M for helping the crew get the shots to tell the story. So are you interested in getting started in Precision Rifle Series competition? Well, coming next, Armageddon Gear has a new starter kit to help you get outfitted. Plus, what's in a name? The Omnivore is the newest holster from Blackhawk. We'll take a closer look next.
Introducing the M&P M2.0 by Smith & Wesson, enhanced for complete shootability. Featuring a new aggressive grip texture, the famous M&P Optimal Grip Angle, 4 interchangeable palm swell grips for nearly any hand size, a light, crisp trigger with a clear tactile reset. Everything you love about the M&P pistol made even better. The new M&P M2.0, advanced by design.
Shooting USA is brought to you by Smith & Wesson and the new M&P 2.0 pistol, advanced again by design.
Today I've got some gear to help you get started in Precision Rifle Series competition. First is the Armageddon Gear Bucket-O gear. This is essentially a starter kit to outfit you with all of the support stuff you're going to need for your first match. It includes the data armband. This is essentially a piece of dry erase board you wear on your arm. It includes their precision rifle sling, all of the adjustability and functionality you're going to need to make those slung supported shots. The kit includes the Armageddon Gear Fat Bag. This is easily the most important piece of gear when it comes to making those fast supported shots. You saw Jen and I using it in the match coverage earlier. There's a magazine pouch. It's a snug fit for the AI 10 or 5-round pattern. The sand-filled rear bag, easily the second most important piece of gear when it comes to making a stable supported shot. And finally, the world-famous Armageddon Gear beer bivvy. Keep your beverages cold after a long day on the range. In this configuration, the Bucket-O gear is right at $250. If you were to order all of this stuff separately, you'd be right at $300, and you wouldn't have the modular containment system. Here's a closer look at the rifle I used in the match. It's the same Remington 700 short action that George Gardner barreled up for me. I have it in a new chassis. This is the Gen 4 from PDC Custom, built from 6061 aluminum and finished in Coyote Tan for now. Some of the things I really like: it's a side folder, adjustable cheek weld, fully adjustable length of pull, an adjustable thumb rest, and removable barricade stop. You can look at this system and tell it isn't going to be cheap. Starting point on this chassis is $675, optioned out like this, just over $1,300. Now, the newest retention holster from Blackhawk. This is the Omnivore, and they call it that because it will eat anything, provided it has an underbarrel rail to mount the RAD. That's rail attachment device, and it's the key to the system. This one holster will accept over 150 different patterns of pistols. So let's head to the range and get some reps in live fire. A couple of impressions of this new holster after getting some live fire reps. First, the designers at Blackhawk spent a great deal of time creating this open area here that guides the RAD into the retention channel. This speeds up your reholster, and after using it a little, I'm really starting to like it. Also, they've gone away from the Serpa-style finger release for the retention device and gone to a thumb brake. And when working with a 1911, the thumb brake positions your thumb right on top of the thumb safety. It's a really nice feature. There are 2 Omnivore designs that work with underbarrel flashlights, or like this one, for non-light bearing guns. Right hand or left hand, prices are just under $60. Coming next today, Smith & Wesson Pro Julie Golub shows us the secret to success when preparing for the range.
Out of all you'll spend on shooting this year, this is the most important: a membership in the NRA. Join at shootingusa.com and I'll pay $10 for you. It's that important.
Tradition meets innovation. Ready for any competitive arena. The new Colt Competition pistol, featuring dual spring recoil system, Novak's new adjustable rear sight and fiber optic front sight, competition ergonomics, national match barrel in 9mm and 45. Innovation at a competitive price. American made and only available at Colt stocking dealers. Colt, built one at a time, proven every round.
Shooting USA is brought to you by Huppies, the gun care people since 1903, and by Savage Arms, no nonsense, all performance. When it's time to go to the range, it's best not to forget anything and take a few precautions before heading out. Well, Smith & Wesson Pro Julie Golub knows that all too well. She's a champion shooter, a hunter, a veteran, an author, a shooting sports ambassador, and a full-time mom. And she knows how to plan the most successful range day to get the most out of your time.
Even though I shoot for a living, as a busy mom, I need to make sure that my range time is productive. Here are my tips to make sure that you have a great time at the range. The first thing you need to do is make a plan, and I like to lay everything out that I'll need and make sure that I also write it down on a list to ensure that I don't forget anything that I'll need on the range. Next, I'm going to check the weather and make sure it's going to be a suitable day to practice. After that, I'm also going to double check to make sure that there's nothing in the area that could delay my practice session, and I'll make sure the range is open as well. Once I've settled on a date and time, I make sure I let a family member know when I'm going to be at the range. Oftentimes, I'm the only one there or very few people there, and it's an added safety measure. I also set a reminder up in my phone so that that person knows when I make it home. Now, when I arrive at the range, regardless of whether I'm shooting indoors or outdoors, I always like to back into my parking spot. That makes it easier for me to leave, especially if I have to in a hurry. I also keep my keys with me, accessible and on my person. Another thing I always keep with me, my phone. Not only is it a fun tool for capturing those moments on the range, it's also a safety tool for emergency phone calls. Now, range time is sacred, so I do make sure that I put my phone on Do Not Disturb so I don't get any unwanted calls or messages while I'm shooting. Once I've finished shooting, now it's time to clean up the range. I make sure I pick up my targets, brass, and any trash. I want to make sure that the range is a place that everyone can enjoy. Maximize your range time session by being prepared and always have a plan. It's the best way to train, to always be safe and have fun.
Thanks, Julie. And you can find her range tips posted on our website, plus where to shoot the next vintage sniper match, and how to sign up for next year's GAP Grind if you want to be John's next amateur partner. Find all the info at shootingusa.com. For all of us, I'm Jim Scoutten. Shoot safely, shoot often, and keep them in the 10 ring.